Lightfall's ending, a giant mystery. The witness opens a portal and enters near the traveler. Light collides with dark. The traveler dies and the witness is gone. Today we're gonna examine some of these mysteries, discuss this portal, and speculate on where it may lead. The whole plan of the witness throughout the campaign was to get the veil, connect it to the light, and blast this beam to the traveler. The radial mass was first going to be used, which was said to have primordial light, but Rohan would destroy it. The Guardian would be outplayed in the end though by the witness, somehow controlling and using our own ghost to connect that light instead, powering up the veil's blast, which travels through space and hits the traveler.
The universe makes us all victim and perpetrator. Life's infinite cruelty. You, more than any, suffer both fates. Be free.
We don't have an exact answer unfortunately, but the veil seems to bind light and dark together, physical and metaphysical, creating some sort of outcome or plane where the two are on the same playing field. If you've read the Unveiling lore book, it kind of seems like that original garden, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. We also know, thanks to the Cloud Striders, that the Veil was used to combine Neomuna's citizens' minds to the Cloud Ark, uploading their consciousness kind of like an exo and living in their city this way. So that kind of connects with the whole theory of the Veil having to do with the metaphysical as well. Let's take a closer look at the portal. It appears to mesh many different colors together and, according to Ikora, cannot be accessed. She says the witness has gone someplace we cannot follow. Well, why? As a Guardian, the first thing I thought of was flying straight into it after Lightfall's campaign, but it appears this is currently not possible for some reason. A cool little side note, in Savathun's throne world there's similar looking portals or objects. So it makes you wonder, Savathun knew about the witness's plan during the first collapse, did she know more about these portals? Do these have some connection, or are these just shapes in her throne world that appear to be similar? Time is also an interesting topic in the Destiny universe, different time periods, timelines, and characters traveling through them.
How this works for the witness, and the witness is above the universe.
My witness.
The witness doesn't get any enjoyment out of life. The witness is the kind of thing that deals with the problem with like a flick of its wrist.
The witness in a Bungie Vidoc was said to be above the universe. This could have just been a phrase to show the severity of the situation with this villain, but it could also kind of make some sense. When we often see the witness, it's through this glass-like projection, making you wonder if the character's even there in the first place. In the Callus scene, it speaks to him in a dream even.
We know pain. Our purpose is its end. You hold the universe in your grasp, and all you can think of to do with it is secure the veil. We will create the link. Infinite apologies. The veil is yours. dark.
Concept art of the Traveler's Beam in Lightfall says this: as the Traveler gathers its energy, waves of time distortion spill out from the center, refracting and bending the light. The Traveler creates with purpose. The waves feel natural but still show signs of mathematical composition and machine-like structure. Like a chiseled diamond, the waves are almost crystallized in a form with sharp repeating patterns. The light scatters through the forms, causing dispersion as the light hits the different angles. Many colors and values appear as the storm unfolds underneath. So of course this was just concept, but it talks about this Traveler beam having to do with time, bending light, and that the Traveler creates with purpose. We've seen its terraforming forms in the new raid. Concepts of the Veil from Bungie also explain that Veil as a physical manifestation of incomprehensible cosmic energy, a window into the mind and memory of the universe. Darkness deals with mind and memory. The Veil is an artifact of darkness. So if that description is true, the Witness used the Veil to look into the mind and memory of the universe, to a place when light and dark were on the same playing field. This sounds a lot like the flower game and the garden in the Unveiling lorebook. Once upon a time, a gardener and a winnower lived together in a garden. It was once before time, because time had not yet begun. We did not live. We existed as principles of ontological dynamics that emerge from the mathematical structures, as bodiless and inevitable as the primes. It was the field of possibility that prefigured existence. They existed because they had to exist. They had no antecedents and no constituents, and there is no instrument of causality by which they could be portioned into components and assigned to some schematic of their origin. If you followed the umbilical of history in search of some ultimate atavistic embryo that became them, you would end your journey marooned here in this garden. In the morning, the gardener pushed seeds down into the wet loam of the garden to see what they would become. In the evening, the winnower reaped the day's crop and separated what would flourish from what had failed. The day was longer than all of time, and the night was swifter than a glint of light in a falling sugar crystal. Insects buzzed between the flowers, and worms slithered between the roots, feeding on what was and what might be the first gradient in existence, the first dynamo of life. Rain fell from no sky. Voices spoke without mouth or meaning. A tree of silver wings bloomed, yielded fruit, shed feathers, bloomed again. In the day between the morning and the evening, the gardener and the winnower played a game of possibilities. These are the rules of the game. Let it be played upon an infinite two-dimensional grid of flowers. Rule 1. A living flower with less than 2 living neighbors is cut off. It dies. Rule 2. A living flower with 2 or 3 living neighbors is connected. It lives. Rule 3. A living flower with more than 3 living neighbors is starved and overcrowded, so it dies. Rule 4. A dead flower with exactly 3 living neighbors is reborn. It springs back to life. The only play permitted in the game is the arrangement of the initial flowers. This game fascinates kings. This game occupies the very emperors of thought. Though it has only 4 rules and the board is a flat, featureless grid, in it you will find changeless blocks, stoic as iron, and beacons of whirling pulsars, as well as gliders that soar out to infinity, and patterns that lay eggs and spawn other patterns, and living cells that replicate themselves wholly. In it, you may construct a universal computer with the power to simulate, very slowly, any other computer imaginable, and thus simulate whole realities, including nested copies of the flower game itself. And the game is undecidable. No one can predict exactly how the game will play out except by playing it. And yet, this game is nothing compared to the game played by the gardener and the winnower. It resembles the game as a seed does a flower. No, as a seed resembles the star that fed the flower and all life that made it. In their game, the gardener and the winnower discovered shapes of possibility. They foresaw bodies and civilizations, minds and cognitions, qualia and suffering. They learned the rules that govern which patterns would flourish in the game and which would dwindle. They learned those rules because they were those rules, and in time the gardener became vexed. So these two forces would play this flower game. The same outcome would always occur, and the gardener was not happy with this result. So what did the gardener do? It made a new rule, something that would create diversity and complexity, while the winnower would do the opposite, simplicity. So when you think about this whole game with the goals of the witness, this being that, uses darkness and wants to end this flower game, it totally seems to make sense. The traveler connected to gardener and light wants to create life and seems to be connected to that new rule, wanting to create new patterns, keep life going, while the darkness would want that simplicity, and the two forces are in constant battle. The witness appears to want to end this, and maybe even our entire universe that was created from this game. Enough life and enough death. This garden where the forces began may be where this portal leads. Of course, this is just speculation. Maybe this leads to an alternate version of our current reality, sometime back near our first collapse. But it does seem kind of fitting that a garden like this would be the final location in Destiny. Witness trying to visit this garden where it all began and try and end the flower game, or maybe even travel back in time to a moment, if there is one, where the winnower and gardener didn't exist. What we do know is these colors sort of resemble a kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope is an optical instrument with two or more reflecting surfaces tilted to each other at an angle, so that one or more of the objects on one end of the mirrors are shown as a regular symmetrical pattern when viewed from the other end, due to a repeated reflection. The adjective, having complex patterns or colors, kind of like the patterns seen in that flower game. But anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. Although we don't have the answers, it is frustrating. It's always fun to make these little speculation videos and try and tie these plot threads together before they happen. Be sure to leave your theories in the comments down below, and I thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see some other Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.